Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Mondays, where we talk to guests who are either professionals in the mental health space, those that live with or experience a mental health challenge, or are mental health advocates. And just as a reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you mash down that subscribe button. If you are on LinkedIn or Facebook, you're probably already part of our page, but if you're not, go ahead and follow or subscribe to the page. And I am excited to bring on my guest today, Robert. We have known each other for a little while, but I think all the things that he does are just incredible. So, without further ado, Robert, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, Kelly, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
So my mission in life is to end entrepreneurial unhappiness. So I come alongside entrepreneurs who started their business with a passion and a purpose, and it got distracted by turning into a job. And um, they're not spending the time they promised to spend with their wife and kids. They're frustrated about not being able to take that vacation. They're working longer than they want to be. And the reason they started the whole thing in the first place, is now been put off to the someday horizon. And we try to help them bring that back to the center and focus on the life that they want to have, and then build a business to support it, which of course increases your happiness, and it really helps you develop joy, right? And I think um, joy is what gives you resiliency in dealing with life. And I think the joy and unhappiness are kind of opposite ends, and our culture is experiencing this incredibly growing and overwhelming sense of unhappiness and dissatisfaction. And that's not just in the United States. That's not just because of COVID. It's growing worldwide, and I think more and more leaders, more and more business owners, more and more CEOs have to start to recognize that there's an importance to happiness and joy in business.
Yeah, I mean, that there's a lot there just because I as a business owner, right? Like you are like, "Oh, I'm going to live the American dream and I'm going to have my own business and I know what I'm doing." And then you kind of, well, not kind of, but you step into it full time. And at least for me, I can only speak for myself, but and I mean, being a nonprofit is a little bit different, but not that different. Um I was like, I think I know what I'm doing, and then soon found out that I had no idea what I mean, I had an idea, but it still like felt that way. It's just like I have no idea what I'm doing, and oftentimes I feel like my wheels are spinning, and then I'm like, it's not going the way that I thought it was going to go, and then I mean, I try to live in a positive life or um positively as much as possible, but there is like those negative things creep in, and then you're like, well, now I'm spending more time on this job than I was in the corporate job. And so yeah, that's so important, especially with entrepreneurs, to
Well,
be able to have that.
and I think they start with good intentions. First, they have that dream, right? They have this big idea. Oh, I can spend more time with the family. Oh, I can take a 4-week vacation every year. Oh, I can do all these things. And the problem is that when they get into the work that they do, the thing that exchanges, that brings the money in the door, that becomes the thing. And then they get so caught up in it that they're working 10 to 12 hours a day. They're caught up in, feeling stressed, and you know creating anxiety, and they lose the passion. Partly, for a lot, it's because they don't know how to be entrepreneurs. They know how to be employees, and so they jump into business with an employee mindset. And you really have to shift to an entrepreneur mindset, and then you have to shift really to be the CEO uh, of a you know of yourself. and and I don't mean that as the chief everything officer, because that's what happens to a lot of people. Oh, I got to be the cook, the marketer, the salesman, the director, the boss. I got to keep track of all the client interactions. And of course, you're still responsible for all those things. But in no business should you be in charge of all those things? And I think entrepreneurs get stuck, you know, operating as the chief everything officer, and it really doesn't serve them or their business. And then of course that doesn't serve their dream or their family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. I know, like for me, I've gone through several different mind shifts. So it was that employee to business owner, but I was still the doer, as I still am oftentimes. But then I had to shift from the doer to the leader. And then now I'm really trying to make that shift to be like the CEO, like you were saying, is more of um, the entrepreneur, the person that doesn't do it all, because then you can have other people that help you along the way too.
And even if you are doing it all, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that run their business as a solopreneur. There's still a difference between doing it all and giving yourself time to lead yourself, giving yourself time to be creative in the business planning, or just getting caught up in doing. And I think too many get caught up in just doing, and they're not growing themselves. They're not able to grow their business because they can't focus on the creativity and the things that need to happen to make some business decisions a little bit differently. And when you can change your focus, then you can focus on growth and still operate the business, still pay the bills, and still take care of your family. But it really boils down to why are you doing it? Why'd you do it in the first place? You know, why did you leave that job to do something fantastic, and now it doesn't feel fantastic anymore? Right now it's just as frustrating as the job was. And and if I don't, you know, make this sale or do this thing, I can't pay my bills. Where at least with the job, they're going to keep giving me a paycheck as long as I keep showing up. And I think that stress level, you know, just increases the challenge and forces them to focus on what's missing instead of focusing on all the things, good things that they have.
Yeah. And you said something about happiness and joy being on different spectrums. I'm curious, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I think obviously, right, the world unhappiness, and you know, there's that idea of, you know, happiness being linked to money, right? Because money can't buy happiness and fulfillment. And for me, the way I define joy is, I guess happiness for some people can just be a feeling, right? Just, you know, whether you feel happy or not. And those of us in the positivity space, you hear all the time stories of people that say, well, you know, well, I just can't be positive about everything, right? And that's not really what joy is. I think joy is a built-in resiliency within you to handle adversity. And and I don't know that many people, we're not taught to develop this, right? You're taught, you know, have a thick skin, don't let it bother you, all these things. But true joy, I think, comes from an ability to process adversity in a different way. And that includes how you think about it, right? The story you tell yourself about it, because there's so many things going on in the world that are outside of our control. And if you're trying to control those things, or you're trying to have a handle on those things, or you're trying to feel like you can do something about those things, you're chasing your tail and just going to add to your frustration, right? And so that's that. How you think about things is a piece of it. Your connections, your relationships. What kind of relationships do you have in your workplace, in your home? I think is a piece of that. And then what do you have to fall back on, right? Do you have a savings in a financial emergency? Do you have family nearby? Do you have, and I think those are areas that if you check each of those boxes, then you probably live a joyful life and you would describe yourself as happy. But joy provides that resiliency. And I think um, not everybody thinks about, you know, the adversity in those areas, right? You know, how's it gonna impact what I'm doing up here? How's it gonna impact, you know, the people around me and the relationships that I have? And then what safety nets do I have in place? You know, do I have a family nearby? Do I have friends that I could count on? You know, if my tire goes flat on the way home from an event at the middle of the night, do I have someone that I could call? You know, the the Facebook idea of, you find out who your real friends are, right? If you get thrown in jail and you need bailed out. Yeah. And I think that is part of that resiliency that really provides a person with joy, is knowing that you do have people that you could count on in those kinds of terrible situations if they were to happen.
I I love that. I mean, yes. Like there's so much there too. The happiness thing is like I want to be happy or I don't know how to be happy or sometimes I hear those and the other quote that comes into my head is you have happiness comes from within. And I love that you also like with the joy how that is resilience. I've never thought of it that way, but it really truly is. I mean, you can you can be unhappy but still have joy, right? You could also be happy and not have joy. So there, I think that is it's a really interesting way to think about it. And it is something that we can not attach to, but we can think in a different way, right? Like I just love how you said joy is being resilient. And we don't have to listen to like the societal quotes of like be a man or grow up or like the things that we've heard for so long, and then you find that tribe or that circle, kind of like you were saying, who are those people that will support you and lift you up versus drag you down. And I think that's really important as an entrepreneur because you really truly do, going into this business, find out who your friends are, like whether they stick around because you're not, whether it's partying all the time or you're not, you're going into more successful circles or whatever that might be. You really truly start to find the people that you're drawn to, but it's actually a really cool adventure. At least for me, it has been. So
Well, I mean, obviously, I think entrepreneurship is a crucible for personal growth, and if you jump into the crucible, just like when you melt a metal, right? The the stuff that's dirt and debris in your life floats to the top and can be cleaned off, and I think entrepreneurship is kind of like one of those pressure clamps. Right? The temperature's a little hotter, it heats things up in the crucible, and the dirt's going to rise to the top. And some entrepreneurs choose to hang around with people that keep throwing dirt in their pot. And I think that the true growth can happen when you let go of those relationships that aren't serving you. And that can be a challenge, right? Because we love our family, we love the friends that we've grown up with, and the people that are around us. But today, it's just the way people talk and the words that they're using. The majority of people are choosing to be in such negative states, and wanting to stay in a negative state full of drama and anxiety and stress. And you don't have to. You can choose to not fill yourself with all of that, and just cutting off some of those connections and those relationships can be so powerful for your mental state. This brain is actually a pretty incredible device. But like, when we learned computer programming in school, it was, garbage in, garbage out. Well, that's what a lot of people are doing with their mind. And, they're letting the news feed it. They're letting the neighbors feed it. They're letting the little gossip crowd feed it. And your brain holds on to those words. They really do matter. Whether you think you're holding on to them or not, they truly are. And the more negative crud you allow to get in there, the more work you have to do to get that crud out.
and that's, I mean, something that I talk about all the time is the words that we say to ourselves and the words that we say to others. It really truly does matter. And the words that are being said around us matters also. And it has been, at least for me, it's been really, really important to be part of really supportive communities of entrepreneurs that are equal people, right? Like they may be way more successful than I am, and or they may be starting, but the coolest part about being in circles like that is that we're all really on the same playing field, and we're all looking to support and help each other and lift each other up, and we're not looking to drag each other down. And so I think that's been one of the really cool parts of jumping in head first, as I say, and then figuring out how to swim.
Well, and community is such an important piece of our humanness. We were created to be in community. We were created to be in relationship, and really, it's only the last couple hundred years that families have isolated themselves in the way that we have isolated ourselves, in homes and in these little boxes at the end of the street. The truth is, community was designed. I think we were built for a different kind of community, and and I know there's people listening thinking, well, I'd much rather be alone. And the problem is that you've convinced yourself that you'd much rather be alone. And the truth is, if you're in a true community and you're hanging out with sharing, sharing the stories of the community, things are different. Things would be very, very different than they are. And you talked about not just hearing what people around you are saying. It has the shows that you're watching, the Facebook feed that you're reading, the videos that you're allowing your eyes to see. Those words matter too, and your brain absorbs every one of them. And so the more drama and war and gossip and all of those things and mean things that people are putting out there in the social space, the more of that you allow into your brain, the more you're just stirring the pot up there and really limiting your brain's capability to do some really creative and incredible things that it wants to do for you.
Yeah. I know actually my son the other day, so I do watch like 90 Day Fiance. I don't know why, but it's one of those shows that I don't have to think, and it's kind of funny. And he's like, "Well, why do you watch this?" And I'm like, "Well, because it allows my brain to just not have to think for a moment." And so there are those type of shows that I like to watch that I don't have to process anything, because I feel like during the day I'm constantly processing things, but it really does. It makes a difference. If you're always constantly watching like the crime shows, and you're watching the news, and you're watching all of these garbage things, that's probably how your life is going to pan out potentially. Um, yeah, it
It's
just
at least going to
matters.
impact how you feel about yourself and about others. I mean, it can't not. And so those things matter. Be intentional about what you're putting in, what you're allowing yourself to read, what you're allowing yourself to see and be a part of, and and limit the time, right? Even if you're watching one show a night, then whatever. That's no, everybody's, you know, got to have a little letdown. But your brain loves space. Your brain loves time. Your brain was created and hasn't evolved into this technology age where we have so many screens and so many images and so many options and so many shows and so many, our brain hasn't caught up. And so the brain likes a little bit of space. It likes a little bit of break from just a walk. Go take a walk in nature and give your brain a chance to see some leaves. I wouldn't go today because it's freezing cold, but give your brain some space too. And I think people that binge watch and their television's on from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed, or in between they're on their phone and it's on their social feeds. Control who you're getting on your social feed, control what people are saying, because it really is going to matter to how you feel. It's going to matter and make a huge difference. Try it. Take a week off from social and from television and see how much different you feel. And
Yeah.
if that sounds impossible to you, I challenge you to try it. And what's the story you're telling yourself about why that would be impossible?
That is interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. Um, I know our house, we use a lot of technology around here more often than not, but during the days, I don't usually have anything on other than if I'm working, and even music every once in a while. But no, I think this is great. Like thinking about what we take in or what we put out is really important, especially as business owners. I recently heard something. It was a story about this guy that he went up to this other guy and he's like, man, I want to make money. You're making money. Tell me how to make money. And then he was like, well, he's like, if you really want to know, meet me tomorrow at the ocean. And he's like, the ocean? I don't want to go swimming. And he's like, no, 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 meet me tomorrow. Like, if he's like, no, I just want to make money. And so he meets him at the ocean the next day in a suit. And he's like, all right, we'll walk into the ocean. And he's like, no, why am I walking in the ocean? I want to learn how to make money. I don't want to learn how to swim. I already know how to swim. He's like, well, just walk into the ocean. And he has him walk in. And then he's like, why am I here? What am I doing? And he's like, okay, go a little bit further. And it eventually gets up to his mouth. And the other guy puts him under the water for a couple seconds. And he's like flailing around and he pulls him back up. And he said, what in the heck? He's like, well, what was the one thing that you were thinking underneath there? Was it that you wanted to make money? And he said, no, I wanted to breathe. And the quote that I heard out of that was, you have to want to succeed as much as you want to breathe. And that was pretty mind blowing for me when I heard that the other day.
Well, and I think the next stage in that is that you have to believe you can succeed, right? There's obviously the fake it till you make it cliche is out there and everybody misunderstands it, which is why it shouldn't be used anymore, because we can't fake it. There's too many people on social media faking their lives and faking all this. That's not what it's really about. It's about believe that you're capable of being the person that you want to become. Believe that you're capable of doing the thing that you want to do. And that's the biggest step towards success in life, is believing that you can become something better, believing that you can have a bigger impact. And that believe it till you make it is really what, it's about, that telling the story you tell yourself about what you can do and what you're capable of and what possibilities exist in front of you. And like, if we'd have asked Kelli 5 years, well, let's go back prior to 2017, that if you'd ever run a nonprofit or have your own company,
No.
you would have not believed it, right? But today you believe that not only is it possible, but you believe in an incredible impact that you can make because you want to stop successful suicides.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely that belief in yourself and your abilities and everything that surrounds you. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely your belief. I love that. I don't like the cliche fake it till you make it either. I'm like, I am not a good faker at all. So, I mean, I can try, but it doesn't work. So I love that. Believe until you make it. We're going to change the sayings.
That's right.
So I would love, and I know we didn't kind of mention this, but I would love to know more about, because you have the Smiling Entrepreneur Coach. Talk to me. I mean, I know, but tell me more about the smiling aspect.
Well, the truth is, at events, everybody would compliment my smile and say, "Oh, you're always smiling. Why are you always so happy?" And I realized, well, I guess that's just who I am. And part of that is that joy factor, right? That I feel like I have that resiliency inside of me, and I can face, consequences in life that happen without, completely falling apart. And I think the power of a smile, obviously, for the endorphins that it generates within you, but the endorphins that it generates in others. And there's, in the Bible, the term your face shines upon us talks about when we're face to face with God. So the idea throughout the Psalms and the Proverbs and much of the Old Testament is that we were created to be connected to God, and that connection happens through the face. Well, because we're also created to be like God, we make connections with others through our face. And you make a much bigger connection when you face people smiling and they see the joy in your face, and you see joy in their face. And the evidence is very clear. This is very scientific. It's very studied. Just think about babies. And the first 6 months of a baby's life, the only experience they have is that attachment to their mother. And that attachment grows if they're smiled at, and they see a bright, smiling face looking down at them and sharing love with them. And we know that babies that don't experience attachment grow up with a disattachment, grow up in fear, and it really becomes the difference between fear based thinking, lack based thinking versus love and abundance thinking. And the smile can make all the difference in between those. From birth until death, the smile has power. And the other thing, I've been in 30 different countries, and the smile is universal. It means the same thing in every place.
Yeah, I love that. And I as I, of course, got more into just mental health in general, I didn't realize the full impact of a smile until I did read some of the scientifically proven studies around endorphins and what I call the happy juices of your brain. And simply just smiling, whether it's fake or real. And this is a fake it till you make it thing that you can do, but just simply smiling. And I've always, I mean, as long as I've known, I love to smile and I love when people smile back at me. And so when you told me originally about like where the smiling came from and the books that you have as related to smiling, I just thought it was the coolest concept ever. So
Yeah, I mean, I think encouraging people to smile is such a simple act, right? And of course, we can add power to it by using their name. And so the favorite words anyone wants to hear is their own name. And so smiling at somebody and acknowledging their name can change their day.
that's awesome. Yeah. Like I didn't the two words they want to hear is their name. It's true. And so I know that you have created multiple books around smiling too.
Yeah, so we're partnering together with our publisher and creating this incredible dose of hope. And so it's keep smiling, dose of hope, and dose stands for dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, which are the smile. But hope is that thing that feeds joy, right? Having hope that other people's stories match. And so Kelli, I know your story is going to be in the next edition of the dose of hope, and other people like Rob Angel, who created Pictionary, and Frank Shankowitz, who created Make a Wish Foundation. Their stories are forever a part of this. And our goal is to have 500 authors, 500 people sharing stories of hope. And the ebook is going to go out to millions, maybe tens of millions of people have the opportunity to see all of these different stories. And so hopefully it's an opportunity to help people be inspired. It's an opportunity to help people be excited. Um, and of course share hope, right? And then the other piece that we do at events is creating keep smiling books. And so we just take pictures of people holding a keep smiling card. Sorry, it was a little out of reach. And of course encouraging them to smile. And this card idea was started by Barry Shore. He lives in Las Vegas, and now he's a quadriplegic who swims a mile every day. And but he spent 6 months in bedridden, and now he can actually walk with some assistance tools like walking sticks and crutches, but he's actually moving. And he just started passing these cards out, and now they've passed out millions. And um, my business partner took it to another level and said, can we do some more with this? And so not only do we hand people a keep smiling card, encourage them to keep smiling, but we take their picture, and now we create a book of all the people, smiling and encouraging people to smile. And so you have a whole book full of people from the same event that you were a part of, or the same group that you were a part of, or the same city that you're in, depending on how the book's put together. But it's a chance to just see people smiling and read quotes about smiling. And it's just kind of been a fun networking event to create connection at another level.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And I know I'm in two of those books too. Or three, I don't even know. But enough events that I have a whole bunch of those keep smiling cards too in my purse. Um, and I just think it's such a cool way because at least for me, I tend to forget names, but I remember faces. And that I think is a really cool way for an event that you remember the face with the name And at any moment in time, you can go back and maybe that was the most incredible event of your life. And you're like, oh, that person. Oh, I remember that person. And I just think that that's a really cool way to even start to find your tribe, find your community, and remember those magical events that you get to go to along the way too.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, yeah, I think just faces and names are powerful reminders, right? And it's to easier to match a face than it is. Our brain's designed to remember faces. We're not designed it as much to remember names.
That's why we wear name tags, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So I love the concept of the books that you do. I love the concept behind why you do what you do as a coach for entrepreneurs. For those entrepreneurs out there, do you have any strategies or tips or tricks that you want to throw out to give them?
Well, I mean, really, it's about being intentional, right? And so it's choosing to be intentional with your time, intentional with your money, and intentional um, with your plans. And I think that the biggest challenge for most people is they lose that intentionality over paying the bills and making money. And I think it's time to come back to your goals, your passion and purpose, and put that back at the center, and then design the business to support it. Design the business to do the thing that you wanted to do in the first place. And I think that's the most basic. If you can be intentional with how you're spending your time to get the results that you want, you're intentional with how you spend your money to get the results that you're aiming for, and intentional in your relationships, right? Who are you involving in your growth, and then who are you helping, right? Who are you serving? If you're intentional in those areas, you're going to make a huge difference. But it all starts with that self-discipline um, and growing that. But that grows so much easier when you're aligned with your purpose, and it feels like this is really what I was made to do. Work becomes less like work and more like life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And anything else that you want to share that we didn't cover today?
I mean, I do have a book that I wrote myself. So it's the Entrepreneur Mindset Shift, and so it's just growth characteristics of success. It's an airplane read. So it's 100 pages, pretty easy. 3 hour, maybe 4 hour read if and it's kind of basic, but yet it gives people some basic areas they could start thinking differently about money and time and how they're trying to grow themselves to grow their business.
Awesome. And if somebody wants to work with you, how can they find you?
So my website's add value, the number 2 life.com, and down below. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you said there was one other website that people can go to.
Yeah, so we've got a free calendar evaluation and a visioneering your future worksheet that we give away, and that's just a way to figure out who you want to be, do what you want to have, and the impact you want to make, right? Give and legacy in the 5 domains of life. And so, addvaluemindset.com, you can download those 2 things for free, and of course that'll give you opportunities to have a free strategy call. We'll spend 30 minutes on the phone helping you work through whatever you want to work through or talk through. So
Nice. Awesome. And if somebody maybe like has an event, potentially they want to like do a book or like a smile book, is that something that they can also go to your website and maybe
yep.
learn more about?
Or reach out through our website, through LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being my guest, and I'm so glad that you were able to come on my show because I came on your podcast, which tell us a little bit about your podcast also.
Yeah, so it's called Add Value, the number 2 entrepreneurs. So add value to entrepreneurs. And our goal in that is to share the entrepreneurial journey, the good, the bad, the ugly of everybody of entrepreneurial life. And I think empower entrepreneurs to take their business to the next level, because I believe entrepreneurs are going to save the world, and the way for them to have the biggest impact is for them to be working in their passion.
Yes. Yay. Well, thank you so much again for being my guest today. I really, really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you, Kelly, for the opportunity.
Yeah. All right, y'all. That was another amazing episode of Mental Health Mondays, where we talk to guests who are either professionals in the mental health space. My dog is whining at me, so you probably can hear him. But we talk to professionals in the mental health space, mental health advocates, or those that live with or experience a mental health challenge. And I just want to give a shout out to all of the people that have donated to our Climb for Your Mind fundraiser that we have currently going on right now. And I was going to pull up all of the names, but I'm going to just drop the link down here below. If you are a business and you want to support what we're doing with our programming, our education, and everything that BCC Evolution does. Because as a reminder, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, but this is our biggest fundraiser of this year. And we are looking to raise $60,000 by next August for an event that we're going to be doing. We're actually going to be climbing the same amount of miles. That's probably not right, but as much as Mount Everest is in Utah, but we have to get there first. And all of the extra money goes to all of our programs, our classes, everything that BCC Evolution does. And I had the pleasure this weekend of training several rural communities within Colorado mental health first aid. And I couldn't have done that without our support of our donors, because they don't have the funding to be able to bring it into their schools. So it is really, really important work that we are doing. So go here, go donate. If you're a company and you donate over $1,000 or more, we're going to put your logo on our t-shirts. If you are an individual and you donate $100 or more, you actually get to put the name of whomever you want on our shirts. We're going to have a really cool logo, and we're going to showcase all of your people's names. If you've lost somebody to suicide, lost somebody to substance abuse, or another mental health challenge, with $100 donation or more, you get a chance to put their name on our shirts, and we will showcase them to the world. So thank you so much for all of you that have already provided your supports. And I really hope that you will join us next Monday at the same time for our next episode. And again, we have 7 different ways that you can listen to this, watch it, or stream it, which is super cool. So thank you so much, and we'll see you back next week. Bye, y'all.